I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good morning, everyone. This is the Broadwater County Commissioners meeting. Today is June 30th, 2014. Welcome and thanks for coming. Before we start, we will just take care of some very quick housekeeping. We do follow Robert's Rules of Order in maintaining the civility policy for Broadwater County, also known as the open meeting policy. Anyone who wishes to speak is given 3 minutes to do so unless otherwise spoken to with the county chair. And any outside conversations need to be taken care of outside in the hall or outside. And we do this because we realize we do have a fiscal and fiduciary responsibility to conduct county business as efficiently as possible. And we are also recorded and are on YouTube. So if you could please state your full name for the record. With that, is there any public comment? Brenda.
Brenda Ludwig, Broadwater County Sheriff. I just wanted to update you on this ASPCA, American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals grant that I applied for back in April. We have been granted it. I just mailed it out yesterday, or this morning, I guess,
Thank you.
so that they can mail it out for $14,500.
Can I ask a question?
You bet, you bet.
On the TV, it said that the couple that owned the horses, or were caring for the horses, that their bond is $25,000. Do they pay $2,500? Is that what they paid?
You know, I don't know if they do or not. You'd have to ask the county attorney on that.
I was curious.
But
I
I
found
know
it, asked me, and I
that
said,
they've got like 3 weeks to.
what I know.
So,
Good job in getting a contract and a grant.
and even though it says Miss Brenda Ludwig, or Ms. Brenda Ludwig, I did this as sheriff of Broadwater County, so it will be coming to Broadwater County.
Fantastic, thank you for the
Good.
update. Any other public comment? Bill?
Joan Hill, I'd like to know who publishes the minutes of the meeting and if they're corrected or what have you, or they, as the meeting goes.
Okay, all right. If I hear your question. All right, Melinda.
Madam Chair, this is Melinda Holm. The last couple of weeks you were talking about some journal entries that were misplaced. And my curiosity got to me, so I went to the YouTube and I looked. And I watched the paper shuffle, and I had watched it at least 3 times. And it appears that there was a stack that you still had that was right out of camera sight over here. But all of the paperwork, the journals that Elaine and Franklin, that you passed them out, all of them got returned to you. And it appears that when you first left the room, that stack, I think, maybe went there, but we're not quite sure. But all of the paperwork that they had, they returned it to you. And I just wanted to let you know that I watched the YouTube and wanted to let you know that.
Thank you very much. Any other public comment? John?
Oh, okay, my comment is on your statement, which you make every time at the commission meeting. This is a constitutional county. We are constitutional citizens bound by our form of government in this county. I am a constitutionalist, informed, probably a lot better than you. And you are implying with enforcement that we are bound by Robert's Rules of Parliamentary Procedure, which is not a recognized law in this country, especially this county. And you're imposing it on us, and it is a very serious crime. And our sheriff is well aware of this. And I wish you would reconstruct your attitude and your implementation of what is law and constitutional law, especially one which gives us life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and right to own property, and then 4, which completes our constitutional rights, the 5th, which stops you in your tracks for your implementation of which the power that you think you have over us, and you're using state statutory law, which is not the 2nd law, but the 10th. And that's the end of the constitutional amendments. As per due process of constitutional law, it requires a simple constitutional convention, not just 1/3 of the law of a congressional act, which is what from 11 on are illegal amendments which you use all the time. And I wish you would practice by reading your Constitution and understanding, and especially reading God's laws. The 10 for 10 for 10, and that's it. And you fail every one of these things. Very graciously, we pledge allegiance to the United States, which gives us our total absolute rights and authority under God. And you break it as soon as that's done. Now, we abide by you with your using the Constitution and the Pledge of Allegiance, which is perfect, supremely perfect. But after that, it goes to pot. And I'd like for you to comment on it. Thank you.
All right. Tim, did you have your hand up?
Yes, Madam Chair, Tim Ravendall. I have a couple of things I'd like to bring forward before the commission. The first thing that I'd like to bring forward, I'm not sure if all 3 commissioners have seen the draft analysis on the acquisition of the Iron Mass property that's over here up behind White Horse, next to White Horse. But this has been a project that's been ongoing since 2009, and this particular project now has a draft analysis out for the people of Broadwater County to weigh in on, to have a consideration of their proposed plan. If you have not seen this particular draft analysis, I attended the open house at the Forest Service District office down here last week, and in that disclosure of this plan, which kind of showed up the night of the meeting, asked several questions on our ability to be involved at the table on this planning process, and I raised several issues from grazing, mineral entry, recreational access to this property that has been a contentious issue for a lot of people since that purchase of that 5,700 acres. I urge the county commissioners on behalf of the citizens to take a real close look at this. We have a period of time to comment. Here is a comment form for everyone to weigh in on. I'd like to please ask the commission to take a real close look at this and weigh in on that. I do have one copy of the draft analysis, but they are available through BLM. The other issue that I'd like to bring up to your attention, commissioners, is regarding our project that's ongoing in Deep Creek. I have been working real hard to try and make sure that I'm informed on what's going on up there and how the different parts of this puzzle all come together. And we had last week the resolution adopting an environmental analysis for that particular aspect of the bridge coming through the TSEP program of a partial. I'm running over time here, I know, Madam Chair, but I'm trying to get as quick as I can. That particular aspect of the Deep Creek project, I was really kind of surprised when I went downstairs and was unable to find a copy of that at the clerk and recorder's office. I then went to our duly appointed coordinator, Mike Conkey, and he didn't have any idea what I was asking for, what the EA was about. I went down to the Conservation District and I asked if they had an EA that was in process. They did not have any idea of what was going on there. I then finally got a hold of Sean Higley, who indicated that that was in fact coming from the TSEP grant process, and I did finally get a copy of a 10 or 12 page process of I'm trying to think of the word, it's a worksheet that is used for developing an environmental analysis. But I did not find or see a copy of a FONSI, which is the final finding of no significant impact, or an actual analysis. So I would really appreciate if we can make sure that that information is available to the public so we can stay informed. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, any more public comment? Public comment? All right. First of all, kudos to Brenda on that grant. Nicely done. Joan, as far as the minutes go, those are published in the newspaper on a weekly basis. They do have to be approved first, and then the clerk and recorder's office sends a copy to the newspaper that is then published. Corrections are the responsibility of any of the commissioners or department heads who came to give information. Spelling errors, grammatical errors, easy things like that, so that the minutes are clear. Melinda, as far as the journal entries, I also watched YouTube, and it's not quite as clear to me, but regardless of that, the facts remain. There were 2 stacks given out. There was 1 stack where everything was jumbled together, given back. There were a number of journal entries missing when I went through to try and figure out which goes with April, which goes with May. This is an issue that has been addressed via legal memo at least twice, and it is a perpetual problem. As far as John, thank you. Tim, Iron Mask, that is a long-standing project. It is currently also being worked on with the Parks and Rec Board. So as far as public comment, certainly we will be more than happy to work with them and the public and help facilitate any public comment that they may have. And if the commission has any, we can certainly solicit that as well. Deep Creek, there's a couple of things on Deep Creek that I think need to be mentioned. Last week after the meeting, you came up here and you said you'd been to the clerk and recorder's office and asked for a copy of the EA, and you said that Ann had never heard of it. She had no idea what you were talking about. Thing is that isn't exactly what she said. What she said is she didn't have it. There is no reason the clerk and recorder's office would have a commissioner's grant. We talked before about requesting duplicates of everything from the feds, the state, and private, so that we could set up a library in both the clerk and recorder's office as well as the commissioner's room, and decided that was a waste of our money, waste of taxpayers' dollars, a waste of time, and we just simply don't have the space to create a new library. You can come down to the commissioner's office at any time. You can call any one of the 3 of us and we can get you that grant. There is a section in that grant about that thick dealing with nothing but the EA. So that's already covered in the grant, and I understand Sean shared that with you as well. So you could get that. You were downstairs, I would presume, waiting to get a look at that. You caught me in the middle of a conference call in which I was presenting, so I was not in a position to put them on hold. So again, you can call any one of the 3 of us and we can get you that information. As far as calling Sean, that is one of those things that we have contractors pay if they want to go to one of our contractors. So you do need to go through the commission for that. That would probably be the best step, is any one of the 3 of us. Let's see. Oh, and last weekend, I think there was some confusion about the Deep Creek and the CTEP grants. You had said this was, all of a sudden, it was being shoved down our throats. I need to reiterate for you and for the rest of the public to get rid of any confusion. This isn't new. The Deep Creek project has been going on for over 2 years. There's a lot of little parts to it. They come up from time to time and we deal with them as they do. But it is a huge project. We've been working on it diligently for over 2 years. So it's not something that just came up that nobody is aware of. There's a lot of different groups working on different pieces. So as far as that goes, I am going to address one other thing. And this is just, again, to address some of the confusion you may have about some of the things that we do. The RLF, I understand you're looking for a copy of that, and we will have one in the clerk and recorder's office that you can get. But I need to explain to you what the RLF is, and I'd like to do it in public forums so that as many ears as possible hear this, so that there's less confusion, less room for rumor out there. As you know, there's quite a few of them jumping around. First of all, the RLF is not the counties, at least not the county governments. It is Broadwater counties. An RLF is a revolving loan fund. It's used in business. Business owners, such as Del Schubring, will get a grant from CDBG, Community Development Block Grant, and that money is used to start a business. In our case, it was Broadwater Printing, and this was, 10, 15 years ago. Maybe more, actually. It was well over 20 years ago. Anyway, that money, as it's repaid, if there is a CRDC, a Certified Rural Development Corp., which at the time was Gateway, today it's MBAC, Montana Business Assistance Connection, then that money can be paid back into an RLF that is managed by the Economic Development Arm. So that money was paid back into an RLF. And then as the next business came up and needed a loan, they took the same money and they paid it back, plus interest, plus administration, that kind of thing. Over the years, over $3 million has been used in Broadwater County to help start businesses from the RLF. This is MBAC, the CRDC. That is something that over 40 counties in Montana have. They have their own economic development arms. They are a private business, separate of the county. They work in coordination with banks. They have boards that manage them, of which Broadwater County has a presence on. So does the city of Townsend. So for us, MBAC is our CRDC, and it services Lewis and Clark, Broadwater, and Marr counties. Other counties have their own CRDCs and their own economic development companies with other names. The funding comes from the feds, from the state, and from private philanthropy. And also the counties pay into it as well as we are collecting services. I think that's it. You are more than welcome to a copy. I just want to make sure that you have all the facts.
Understood.
All right.
I'm just looking for that report.
Yep, and it's absolutely open to the public. In fact, we're proud to share it with the public because it has so much good information in it. So, with that,
Laura, I got a question.
Nope.
I'm going to ask you
With that,
anyway.
we have
I
Montana
want you to
Minute.
respond to my
John,
questions in
that's
writing
enough.
and to the sheriff.
John, that's
Did
enough.
you understand?
Thank you, that's enough. Hey, Montana Minute. Franklin, do you have anything good to say about our state?
Weather's doing good, that's about the main thing. Good hand weather right now.
Perfect day
Yeah.
of weather.
All right, Elaine?
I do have a couple things. The country looks gorgeous. It is green, green, green. Bob and I had to run up to Great Falls last night to pick up some parts. And as we're coming into Helena, when you're up on the North Hill and you look at it, it's just green. It looks great. So, and another thing is that I think that the Walleye Tournament came off well, and kudos to those that worked on that. One other little thing that doesn't need to be in a minute. Those that have been trying to call me on my cell phone, they finally went to working this weekend, so I'm taking my time to get back to the calls, but I will get back to you. It's just frustrating.
That's a tool we need, isn't it?
Oh, man.
All right,
Things are old.
yeah. As far as Montana Minute, I just want to say Happy Independence Day, which is coming up on Friday. I was talking to my dad, and our family ancestors go back to fighting in every single war this country's had since we became a country, starting with the Revolutionary War. And this county has given an awful lot of our citizens through the years to fight in wars as well. And today is the 100th anniversary of the start of World War I, the assassination of Prince Ferdinand. So I just want to say Happy Independence Day and a heartfelt thank you for all those people who gave so much, some of them the ultimate price, so that we could have this celebration that we'll have on Friday.
Can I just piggyback onto that for just a second? In the Vietnam War, we had 7 or 8, I can't remember which, people from towns in Vietnam, right at the same time,
Wow,
which for a community this size says a lot.
yeah, and it was substantially smaller back then. All right, any Montana minutes from you guys? All right. I do have to address the agenda real quick. We do have our 145 Carla Bossi that has been canceled. She would like to table that and get some more time for some information. She would also like to have Franklin's project that she can maybe use as part of how she moves forward. Franklin, were you able to get a hold of anybody for that overall market adjustment for the county?
I do have a phone number now, and that's as far as,
Okay, so you'll follow up on that probably this week.
yeah.
All right. All right, we have 5 minutes until our first appointment. We have the minutes from last week. These were emailed out to us this week for us to review and read before today's meeting. Here we go, June 23, 2014.
Randy Wilkie from Wilkie Funeral Home called me and would like to schedule a meeting with us.
All right. When?
Well, okay, the sooner the better, he said.
What do you think? Want to do it next week?
Is there any way we can get him in Wednesday?
No?
Okay. Let's do then, right after. How about 11:30 then on Monday?
All right.
He wants to discuss the indigent burials.
All right. You think a half an hour?
I think so.
Okay.
Well, we're doing scheduling, town one was called the Alcorn Restoration, and they wanted to get on the agenda at the end of July, so we talked about July 28th at 11:30 a.m. They're gonna present what they've been doing, and they're gonna go to different organizations.
11:30?
Yes,
And is Tom Williams the chair?
yes. Alcorn Restoration.
You don't write so well backwards, you know?
No, I don't. And is that just an update, Franklin? Or?
What's taking place, yeah, they're gonna explain what they're doing, and everything. They're going around to different, I think the rod gun and different organizations.
Since that's at 11:30, do they just want half an hour?
That's what he said, half hour.
Half hour? All right. Anything else? Okay. What say you on those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I have one addition on those, on the minutes there, on that second paragraph, tells about the discussion and the commission was urged to expedite the project, and that, it should say in there for the bathroom / meeting room for the search and rescue. It doesn't really say
What are you saying? Improvements of parking more.
right here, it'd be like,
Where,
commission urged to expedite the project. And that's what we talked about, that's when, Wynn and Roger Vedder were here for the bathroom meeting for search and rescue. Should be right after the project.
actually though, we discussed the fact that there's a bigger project that we need to also discuss. So that would narrow down that discussion to less than it was. It should just be open as
Well-
project, I think, because we did talk about the other needs.
They're the ones that talked about the expediting this room, so.
Right, but if we put for the search and rescue building, and then we have to list all the others too. I don't think we need to list all of it, I think project it covers them all. It covers search and rescue's needs, and it covers the fact that there's other needs out there as well.
Yeah, but they're the ones that wanted to expedite that
Well, no,
project.
all of them do, Franklin, they're the only ones that showed up, but that isn't the only discussion that we had. So we can't put in the minutes that it was because it wasn't.
Well, it was, without a doubt.
Okay, is there a second for the minutes, or Elaine, do you want to offer any further edits?
No.
Is there a second?
I would if this was added to it, otherwise.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded to adopt the minutes of June 23, 2014. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed, Franklin. Motion carries. We've got to stick with just the facts.
That were facts that I put out there.
All right, it is 10:30. Time for Brian Hone, County Safety Manual Adopt.
Good day.
Good day, sir.
It's nice to come here and not talk about garbage.
I was at Rocky Mountain Development's board the other day, and they speak very, very highly of you
Well, it's good.
on the Townsend project.
Good. It's nice to hear that.
But we always hear the bad. It's good to share the good, too.
It's kind of fun being involved with that project. I got a couple of things to talk about. The first is the safety manual itself, and then the second is this. It's a, how are we gonna implement it, and who's gonna pay for it, kind of thing. So on the safety manual, you guys have had a couple of weeks to look it over. Any questions on it? This was put together by the safety committee with direction from MACO. We added very little, and it was it was a pretty lengthy process getting it all done in just 1 hour increments kind of thing. But
3 weeks.
it was a significant effort on the part of the safety committee, and we think it's a good place to start. It's definitely not where we want to be, but it at least gives us something to work from. So that's my note. What will happen from this is approval from you guys. We'll get it reprinted without the big draft watermark on it, present it for signature, and then issue it to you. So,
And department heads have come together and provided the 3-ring binders so we can remove papers as changes come about rather than using these funny little things. But it doesn't look like we'll have to buy any. We already have them on in the county's different offices. One thing that I just noticed, Brian, is wrist should be capitalized.
we want to minimize this.
Yeah,
We
there
wanna
you go.
Minimize it so it's not capitalized.
Let's leave that small, I like that. Any questions on the manual? I gave these out to each of you 2-3 weeks ago, and next week I'm bringing donuts.
That's your, I thought, where you see risk?
On the title page.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right, because I was just looking at this one. Explain the administrative costs, the wages, benefits, printing and publication, I understand, but the wages and
The way
benefits.
that on the budget side of things, I was thinking that, and it's explained up above in the paragraph, that the solid waste department, which I am an employee of, is an enterprise fund. And I don't know if we can use enterprise money to pay the wages and salary of my time when I'm doing safety stuff. So I think there needs to be a separate fund for that type of thing. And that's what falls into those administrative costs, is my time and any of the other committee members that are doing safety stuff would be accounted for there.
And that would include the minutes, taking those and typing them up. And it would include the other directors and the co-chair.
Makes sense.
You know, those that are funded out of general fund, it's not that big a deal.
Right.
But when you start talking enterprise money versus general fund, then there is an issue that we probably ought to avoid.
Yeah.
But that's your call.
The other thing that I want to bring up is the commission needs to lead this safety program, which means all three of us need to be on board and attending the meetings and engaged and reading the material. And our insurance went up by almost $9,000 this year. That would have almost covered this entire budget. The only way to get that insurance cost down is for the entire commission to be engaged and require that everybody else be engaged as following our leadership. So I guess I'd like to just reiterate again the full commission support of this, as well as once we get that in place, then insisting that department heads also be fully engaged.
Are you gonna do some training or things of that nature?
If there's money available, yeah.
And that was a huge part of the last two safety meetings, was the trainings that are needed, the trainings that are out there. There is a cry from our departments to have trainings in this.
It's needed.
It is, and the thing is yeah, money is one part of it, but if we can keep an employee from developing a lifelong, back problem or a bone that doesn't heal because they've followed the safety manual, I think that's well worth it for that individual.
The amount we're asking for here is $15,000 for the safety budget is minimal when it comes to a back injury. One back injury is, I don't know what the latest numbers are, but it's significantly higher than that.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can prevent one, we've done our job.
Well, and I think there's a lot of lifting, whether it be downstairs in the clerk or treasurer's office, lifting boxes of copy paper, for example. And every department has lifting problems and learning how to do it correctly so as to prevent back injuries.
Yeah. And there's a whole host of topics that could be discussed. And that's what we need to do is, the next step of the safety committee is to work on how we implement that training. And what training we want to do.
We thank you for what you've done so far.
So that's my spiel.
All right, as far as the budget, this should be added to our budget work that we'll be doing here in the next couple of months. Any questions on the manual?
No.
Looks good.
Okay,
All right,
I'll make a motion then that we adopt the safety manual for the employees.
so we moved and seconded to adopt the safety manual as is for the adoption for the employees. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Yeah.
Okay, aye. Motion carries, thanks. And I think, yeah, we do the rest of them. It's a
okay.
good subliminal message,
It's good cover.
yeah. All right. Anything else from you, Brian, on this subject?
There are a few things that will have to change with the implementation of this. There is a section in here on cell phone use in vehicles that we will probably have to address with all employees. It's different than what is allowed now, so there might be some issues with that somewhere along the way. But that's just one of the many.
Right.
And it should be fairly seamless, I would think people have safety in their mind all the time, but you never know.
And I want to make a comment too about the budget, the wages and benefits that you brought forward. This does not mean that a safety officer or a vice chair or secretary is making more money. It just means that money for their salary is coming out of this fund versus their own
Yeah, it's
fund.
just another line item on the timesheet is all it is.
Right, but it doesn't mean anybody's getting more money. I just wanna keep that clear.
Looks good.
All right. And when is the next meeting, so we can all put it on our calendars?
They are the second Thursday. Correct? So it would be July 10th. At 3 o'clock.
And where at?
The meeting room in the basement.
All right.
I did talk with Sean Higley about the next topic on the agenda. And I mentioned to him that we are, as a county, we are in need of an adequate training facility. So that was put on his list. That was my contribution to his list from the safety side of things.
Thank you.
It would be a good benefit to have a room that could hold 35 to 40 people that we can use for training purposes.
Mhm.
So that seems to be a theme throughout, so.
Well, I think a lot of different groups could,
Yeah.
for that many.
You know, the only rooms that are available in town for that kind of crowd are at the school, really. You know, it's difficult to.
The ambulance building, we've had like 40 or more in there.
It's not set up real well for training purposes, though. It works, but we need to work on getting a state-of-the-art training room. You know, one that can handle audio, visual, that kind of thing, so you're not tripping over cords when you're trying to present a topic.
Right, especially if it's safety. It just
Exactly.
doesn't work.
You know, it could be as simple as remodeling that room to make it work. But at this point in time, we don't have a place for that.
Right, and that's not our room to remodel.
Yeah.
Plus, it's not a great room. It's expensive to heat. It stays cold in the winter. All right. Anything else for Brian on this particular subject? Okay. Well, Brian, thank you. Anything more for us?
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
We'll get the draft mic off of that and send it to the printer.
Sounds good. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Did you get one of these, Ann? All right.
And would you make copies of that other paper, you know, the one below?
This one?
Yes.
Sure.
And make sure that all three of us have one.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, next is, we'll do some mail for a minute here. This is from Debbie. It is legally required that she have a signed timesheet. So those are for you in Franklin. And she gets mine every 2 weeks. All right, I have a couple of claims here that just need to be signed so that we can put them in the pile. One of those is for next fiscal year.
hesitating signing this one. $123,000.
Oh, that one we have to sign in order to bring it forward, but we'll put that on the agenda. That's the search and rescue vehicle. if I'm
No,
not
I just
mistaken.
meant because it's so high.
Oh, yes.
What is this for? Oh,
Insurance.
the insurance. How's that compared to last year? You know, oh, it says here increase of $938
Mhm, up 1,000 basically.
liability insurance.
How ironic that that would come in right after we just talked about safety.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know about this one, Broadwater Reporter. I said, I don't know about this one, Broadwater Reporter.
Oh.
Franklin, you should be signing by Elaine's, not in the approval line, because none of those have been approved yet.
Okay.
You're
Just
signing
sign here
them
by
by
me.
mine.
Yeah, I hear you.
Mhm.
Especially for the ones that need to be approved with a vote.
So do we know who won the walleye?
Kurt Flynn and Sean Dolan,
Really?
locals.
That was nice.
Who was the second one?
Sean Dolan.
Brooks' husband.
Oh,
So is that 10,000 each?
No, together.
I could be willing to split, yeah. I bet they were excited.
Okay, we have payroll in the amount of $150,493.28.
I'll make a motion to approve payroll, $150,493.28.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to pay payroll of $150,493.28. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We have the approved claims from last week in the amount of $29,609.31.
I'll make a motion to pay the approved claims of 29,000, whatever the rest of it
603.31, 609.31. I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to pay the approved claims of $29,609.31. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
is.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We have a grant here that we just need to approve the receipt of. This is from the Area 4 Agency on Aging with Rocky Mountain Development Council. This is for provision of in-home care services to the elderly. This is in the amount of $14,713.
Say that again, please.
The total is $14,713.
I'll make a motion that we approve the area for a grant for $14,713.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the receipt of the Area 4 Agency on Aging grant. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. And like the other ones from last week, this is a continuation. We've been getting this grant for many years. It's not a continuation grant though for this one that we've been continually getting. And I said the insurance had gone up by $9,000, I was off. It's $7,906, so it was $8,000 increase, which still would go a long ways towards that budget.
You know how much?
Almost $8,000,
7,900.
Oh, you said,
Excuse me, Madam Chair,
yes.
is that the liability insurance that you're speaking of?
There's a couple of different insurances we pay, I believe it is, but yes, liability
Yeah.
insurance.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, looks like we are done with mail. It's a pretty easy mail week. How about the Commissioner's Community Update? Franklin, what'd you do this week?
I attended that meeting in Winston, and speed limits there. I think that was about the only thing.
Elaine?
I was also at the Winston meeting, treated as a town hall meeting, very well attended, especially in the middle of the day. So many people in Winston actually work in Helena, so I was glad to see so many people. Very passionate about their town, and wanting something to be done about the speed limit through there. And I was going through the last couple of days, and I can't believe, myself included, everybody just zips through there. It's sad. Also attended Rocky Mountain Development Board last week, and the new lady I thought was gonna be there last week isn't gonna be there until today. They're really excited. Rocky's come a long, long way in the last 18 months. They were in debt, almost $1 million. And it didn't look very good. They were thinking they were gonna have to close everything up. That didn't happen, and they're down, have a lot of things paid off. They're down to a debt of $200,000 right now. So they've come a long, long way. Very proud of what they've accomplished.
Rocky provides a lot of services locally.
Yes, they do. I mean, even our Head Start is Rocky.
Yep,
We've got apartments down here that are Rocky.
the senior center,
Mhm,
Meals on Wheels,
mhm.
yeah. Well, thank you for the work you do on that board. I think that's incredibly important. I also attended the meeting in Winston, and just for some of you who may not know, the Highway Department conducted a speed study because the citizens are asking for at least a 55-mile-per-hour speed zone through there, 45 if they can get it. And the Highway Department came back and said, we don't see a need. And so the citizens of Winston want to challenge this. We're gonna help them do that. They are compiling evidence on their side that shows why it should be decreased, safety issues, car accidents, near misses of kids, that kind of thing. And so we'll be working with the planning department to help facilitate that for them. Senator Tester's representatives were here last week and met with a variety of different businesses, different groups, Chamber of Commerce, BCDC, and they're just trying to get any pre-information on what's going on in the county, where they can help. JDAI, as the Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative, was also last week, and basically what that was is 10 of us went to Philadelphia for a conference on juvenile detention, funded in total by the Annie E. Casey Foundation, which is a private philanthropy. This happens to be one of their passions. And so each one of us was responsible for sharing with the entire group what we learned. It's a way of not having to take all 24 people to Philadelphia, but they did have 10 breakout sessions per breakout. So we were able to have one person at each and every one of those. The wrestling dinner was well attended Saturday night, and Fall Fest is well underway. So I think that's it.
The date of the Fall Fest is?
First weekend of October, so it's October 3, 4, and 5, and Sunday's headliner this year is Lacey J. Dalton.
How
So
did you guys get her?
she,
Somebody had connections.
oh yeah, Jim and Terry Gunderson of Goose Bay Glass, they are friends with her, and they actually got the Emmy Award-winning violinist who did Slice of Summer 2 weeks ago, and yeah, it's their friendship with Ms. Dalton that is bringing her to town. So we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
We've ordered 70 degrees, light breeze, no clouds for the entire weekend.
Well, clouds would work though, just the rest.
Well, maybe one or two, you know, we're negotiable on that one. So, got 6 minutes till our next appointment. We have a 10 o'clock with John Tester's people on Wednesday. We're gonna have a 9:30 with Corey at the Highway 12. Would you guys be opposed to staying at the Highway 12? It would be easier than moving. Corey's gonna be with us for the meeting the whole time.
That's fine.
That'd be all right with you
Fine by
guys?
me.
Yeah, I don't care, it just depends how many
We just
people
need to
we can
advertise
show
it.
up.
Yeah, we can just post that small change. And that'll just be a discussion with the board and the staff to let them know what's going on in the county. Any assistance we might need on anything.
You said the doc's gonna wait till after the 4th of July.
Yeah, they didn't wanna deal with it with Walleye and 4th of July. It's just too crowded out there, and then of course with the water so low for so long, they couldn't do it before then.
Is the lake up to where it should be now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Still a little bit low, but it's doable. We can live with it. All right, I don't wanna start early because I think we'll have more people coming for the 11 o'clock.
Can I ask you a question or two? How many people, fishermen, do they have at the meeting? Or at the,
140 votes, so they didn't actually fill all their slots. They have about 6 open slots.
that's still pretty
6
darn
or
good.
7.
And what do they pay for an entry fee?
I don't recall offhand. You know, and then they have raffles and various things like that. All the kids that were 17 and under that fished or worked the tournament got $200 apiece, or $20 apiece, I'm sorry, from a pot from a raffle. So they're pretty excited about that.
A kid with $20 in his pocket probably is very excited.
It was cold
Was
yesterday.
it?
And windy and choppy.
Down by the water.
But the big fish on Sunday was 32 1/4 inches.
Wow.
It's a big guy.
And who got that?
Rose was her last name, and I forget where they're from. It's father and son that got it. So, one of them, $1,290. So there's a lot of money paid out like that. About 30 grand they pay out.
And a lot of people come as well.
There were some people from Washington, 2 different towns in Washington, one from Iowa,
Oh,
and Grand Rapids, Michigan.
quite a variety.
Plus all over the state.
I heard an ad on the radio. Is this the 18th year?
16.
16th, okay. Didn't seem like it'd been going that long.
And with the lake so low for so long, I think that's why they had the those openings still left, because it took a while for it to fill up this year.
No mishaps with the wind and the boats?
Everybody got off fine, from my understanding.
Discussed that speed limit the other day at that meeting, and stuff, where there's freshman miners not going through Helen, 2 days ago. Or I mean, to Helen, here he's pulling to East Helen, here's 45, it's a 4-lane and everything, you know, and put it at 45. They just
Coming back,
showed her the priorities, I guess.
right? Well, and they put in 2 more lights there coming into East Town.
Yeah.
From what it used to be. Coming back from Rocky's meeting the other night, though, there at the construction, the cop, and HP had somebody stop. Evidently, they were coming through a little too fast. Because I was stopped for a half an hour on the way in.
That's what they've been saying, it's 15 minutes, a half hour waits there.
All right, we're at 11 o'clock. So, next on the agenda is Sean Higley, WWC Engineering, Safety and Facility Needs for County Department, Search and Rescue, Weed, Mosquito, Solid Waste. Sean, thank you
Okay.
for coming.
I'm John.
Okay, so I have not had a chance to get around to all the departments to validate, I guess, all of their needs. But I have been out to the site, actually just came a little bit early this morning and looked at the county property. I believe there's probably 3 locations, if you guys want to set a building out there, that would make a lot of sense. And I guess just kind of explaining, is the road to the canister site kind of splits that property. So on the east side of it, towards the back side of Dana's lot, would make probably a good location if you're gonna set a building back there. Reason for that is you've got solid waste back there already. It's close to the weed storage area, and it's also a paved road all the way back to that corner. And I have not had a chance to really flush out utilities, water and sewer. I think we can still get back there. That's something that we'll have to look at, but that would be a nice site. The other thing that's nice about that is if you are gonna set storage back there, you could partition it and set it in the corner, the northeast corner of that lot, such that solid waste and Mosquito can pull out the north side, and Dana can use that south side. So it could be a combination storage facility. So that's one option. The other option would be on the west side, kind of in that southwest corner, back up against that alleyway where there was water and sewer running right next to that, kind of in back of, let's see, that's a little,
Western Spindle.
that's it, right there. And so that's another spot. The other spot would be clear on the north side of that western lot where it's pretty much undisturbed at this point. So the only issues I see with putting stuff kind of on the west side would be conflicts with truck traffic and stuff with the road department. That's the only issues that I see on that side.
The road would probably be staying where they're at. as far
Right,
as
I
our
mean, just,
machinery.
they've got all their stockpiles over there.
Ah, all right, which they probably have to move. I don't know that I included this for you, but Parks and Rec is looking at putting in a soccer field, or football field in the floodplain portion.
Right,
So, for, getting people there and parking and stuff.
right,
But, yeah, that is something to think about, that piece of it.
yeah. So I guess there's several locations. The other area that might work for a building, actually, would be right in the very northeast, is kind of across and north of that access to the private residence, that's just to the east of the property there.
Mm.
There's a little vacant space, and it's kind of the fire department's, I guess, lot, or portion of their lot, but
Training lot there.
yeah, so that would be actually a pretty optimal location for just a building, the building itself. And it's pretty flat back there and everything else. Again, that would depend on water and sewer availability back to that location.
What are we gonna need for space? for that
I'm guessing, and I haven't, like I said, I haven't had an opportunity to talk to everybody, but it sounds like the training center itself that everybody's kind of wanting is like 35 to 40 people, plus or minus, in that 30 to 40 people range. You always want to probably plan for a little bit bigger than that, in case you have a little bigger crowd, or you want to have a public meeting event or something like that. And depending on how many offices, there's quite a few options. And what I did is just broke down very, very rough at this point. New construction versus kind of a remodel dollars versus basically, and your other option is modular units. They have quite a few modular units that are either 10 or 12 feet wide and roughly 50 to 70 feet long, depending on what you want. There's older used stuff, there's newer used stuff, and there's brand new that you can get. They look pretty attractive when you start looking at the used stuff, but you have to remember you've got transportation costs, you gotta put them on some sort of a foundation. You've gotta hook up your services, you've got your setup fees for getting them there and getting them set and tying them together. So realistically, when you look at, say, a newer used versus a brand new, your costs are similar, because when you look at anything newer used, you're gonna be remodeling it to get the space that you guys would like to see. And I have not come across one that has a shower facility in anything. So that would have to be an addition to what you got. Now, it's pretty easily done because they're wood frame construction, except for the outer frame, which is steel shell. But so they're just be like going into any other house or commercial building and moving things around and making it work. So bottom line, I looked at, and I'll kind of hand this out to you guys. Just again, this is very rough.
Thank you.
Don't hold me to this because this was put together very quickly.
I gave mine to Ann, Sean. Can I have another?
Sure.
Thank you.
So with new construction in commercial space, you're looking at about $130 a square foot in that range. To remodel an existing site, if you had one available, probably about roughly a little more than half that site, that size, depending on what shape it's really in. For the modular offices, to buy them brand new, you're around $55 per square foot. And really what I do is I equate these, if you got a 12 by 60 unit, which is the modular component, it's about $40,000 per unit on those to buy it. And then you've got the transportation cost, which is $5 per mile per unit. And the closest place that they make these is Denver. They can contract with modular manufacturing companies that are closer to Montana, and they did say that. So that would save, but that gives you about $4,000 transportation cost per unit. Foundation, depending on what you want to do with just a solid slab or put it on a footer, about $75 per lineal foot, and I base that on a footer price, but let's call it somewhere around $10,000 per unit, more or less. And then you've got water and sewer services, which doesn't matter how many units you have, that's probably going to be about $10,000 to run water and sewer to whatever building you've got. And then again, setup fees are about $1,500 per unit. When I looked at the remodel costs for these, you're probably in the range of, they were guessing somewhere around $20 per square foot because they're small and modular, which ends up to be about roughly $10,000 per unit, just for materials. So what we talked about, Laura, was, you know, Mike being able to come in and do quite a bit of this work, which I think he's definitely capable of doing after talking to him extensively. So bottom line, if you were to go with like a 24 by 60, new construction's about 187,000. A modular office new is about 118,000, and that's pretty much finished, ready to move in. The used, you get about a $10,000 discount on that, about $108,000.
Can you repeat those three again?
They're
Those
right-
187?
Yeah, they're right here on your example,
Oh, thank
24 by
you.
60 building.
Okay.
I tried to just, and again, these are extremely rough. I need more time to really pencil these down and get estimates. The used stuff is kind of hit and miss because you're buying it as they become available. And so you don't know what's gonna come up. Now, these 12 by 60s or 12 by 56s are available all the time, you just don't know what layout you're gonna have. And they usually try to sell them in pieces, so they're either part of a 24 by 56 or 60, or they're part of a 36, or some of them are even 72 wide by 60. So you can even go clear up to it, and there's a lot. If you really wanted a bigger facility, you could certainly go, there's a lot of that 72 by 60 stuff on the market. I'm not sure why that is, but it seems like it's a reasonable space. If you go to sheet 2, this is kind of what they look like. Just an example of what they are. They're pretty durable. Actually, a lot of counties and communities are going to this for additional space where they have, especially where they have tight budgets. These things really come in competitively priced.
Isn't this what Doug Kenneth's office is, right next door?
It probably is close, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Difference would be age.
yes.
Yeah.
And I guess if you guys are really seriously considering this, I would probably try to stay away from the older stuff. The reason why is you just don't know what you're gonna get. I've seen some of them with water damage and all kinds of stuff that's gonna cost you more to fix up. If you get something that's, 5 or 6 years old in the used area, you get a pretty good discount on it. It goes from about $40,000 a unit to around 20 to 25. And you're just, better chances of having your carpeting and all these, your flooring and walls and everything in better shape. However, when you look at the cost, I will point you back to the cost several times. It's not that far off. And when you order new, you get exactly what you want, and everything's new. Flooring, fixtures, everything. There's no unknowns, which is kind of a nice alternative when you're actually looking at trying to do cost-wise. And also, that frees Mike up to do other projects as he needs to do.
Did he mention his list?
Yeah, he does have a list. I guess that's just kind of a grand overview of the office space. My thoughts on it would be, just looking at it from the outside in and not really talking to everybody, I probably would lean towards that 36 by 60. It gives you all kinds of options. Gives you a little room to grow if you need to, or additional space for temporary hires, or if you want to move a department over there, or whatever you need. And the cost differential is not huge, significant to jump from 1 to 2. But
One thing I don't see here is weed and also mosquito need places, they're chemical.
Yes, I'm
And-
getting to that.
Okay.
I'm just talking about office space, and really, you do not want to have your chemicals in your office space. It's not something you want to do. Or your equipment. You can have it adjacent, or maybe even attached, but you don't want it as part of your office space. And so, with that, then you get into more of, like a Montana post and pole type building, or steel frame type building, or even those fabric buildings, which I'm not hugely fond of, just because their lifespan is not as long or durable as your other two options. You know, you're looking at more of a 20-year instead of a 40-year on the shell, and it definitely is cheaper to replace your shell on a post and pole or a steel frame, because you just pull the steel roofing off and replace it with new. I'm guessing, and I haven't gotten estimates back on the post and pole and the steel frame, or the fabric brand new. Those are still in progress, but I'm guessing that probably will run you, depending on what size you want, and that, again, I need to really flush out what the needs are for size. I talked to Dana this morning, and I know that Brian out at the solid waste department, they have a backhoe and a few other miscellaneous small pieces of equipment. And then, whether, I know, weed, and they have, they probably need a larger garage bay for their sprayer and their stuff. Plus, we'd need some chemical storage in that building. I'm just really guessing at that between $60,000 and $100,000. And really what I would say on that is you want to just erect a shell and probably do some electrical in there. Probably put, it would be nice to put it on a concrete pad with a floor drain or two in it. But that could always be done a little bit later also. So if you looked at that and then just did like a foam core spray on insulation, then they could heat it when they wanted to. And it would be a relatively, I guess, economic alternative for storage.
That floor drain would be better off going in when it's being built though, wouldn't it?
It sure would. It'd be cheaper, because it's a lot harder to finish once you've got it up.
Mhm.
No question about it. Works a lot better when they got more space.
Yes. When do you? oh, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Hope to hear from these other people.
I would probably, it just depends. I like to try to get, 3 bids coming in on these, so you really have an idea, because if you get one in, it doesn't really reflect, exactly what you're talking about, but, I would say within a couple of weeks, you'd have all the data you need with all this. And, these are planning numbers. I've tried to be a little conservative in this. Once you kind of, I guess, get an idea for, maybe what you want to do, we can pare it down to one option and start, getting bids if that's where you guys want to go with it. And then you can start looking at funding and how to make something like that happen. But I guess it just depends on how many offices really. You might be able to get away with a 24 by 60 building if you don't need that many office spaces.
With growth in mind, Sean, how easy or difficult would it be to go with the 24 by 60 and say 8 years from now, add another unit?
I think you could do that. It would, of course, you'd have to account for that when you go forward with it. It'd be more expensive, obviously, to add the unit later, because you're gonna have an exterior shell that you've gotta basically break down and then attach the two together. But if it's just saying, we're adding office space on that side only, for example, it'd be pretty simple,
Okay.
I think, because you're not adding any water or sewer or anything like that, you just attach an office space on that one side, you can just pretty much plug in doors to those office spaces.
So the stuff that needs, the machinery that needs to be in a heated building for chemicals and machinery, that would be a separate building.
I would recommend that, yes. For sure. Now, there is room on the back side of, again, on the east side of the road, at the back of what Dana's using right now. I've already talked to him about it this morning, and there is room back there to put, you know, both of those facilities back there. And that would make a pretty logical location.
Would that be within his chain link area?
Yeah, essentially.
Could be extended right off that building that's there.
We could
We
do,
talked about, I talked with Dana coming off to the east with just a shed roof, just to put equipment out of the,
and that
Sun.
that could certainly work as far as just putting like almost a lean-to type on the back side of that. That would work really well. There are some other options there that could work that would be even less expensive. The lean-to option, and then, you know, maybe making some modifications to his existing storage where he's got the motor graders in right now, to take out, especially if he was able to move weed out of that extra bay that they're in right now, and we could move them to another location, or even, you know, add on to provide more storage. But he's got that loft area that kind of inhibits what he's doing in there.
The other thing that's been expressed by a number of different boards and some of the different departments is they do want the ability to be able to work on their vehicles during the slower times, which is the winter. So they want some kind of insulation, heating ability. Right now, I know that one of the bays has holes in the doors and from the wall to the door. And so, yeah, they can turn on the heat, but that's all going right out that hole. And it's very difficult to work. So that would be another piece that I think needs to be looked at as far as, do they stay where they're at?
Right.
Is there a lean-to ability, or is there another option?
Yeah. The only inhibiting part of that building that Franklin was just mentioning, and that's just basically on the north side of Dana's existing, I guess you'd call that the concrete building, and then there's the 3 or 4 bay kind of little metal building there that we're talking about putting the lean-to off of. You just can't extend that north at all because of the power line. That power line comes across there and it's really low, and it'd probably be pretty expensive to jack those poles up and be able to extend
well,
something.
could bury it down through there too.
Yeah, and I'll certainly, I can.
Because a person could, when I was there with Dana, it could go to the north.
Right.
Real easy there with.
Right.
And I'd be curious what the cost would be
I can
to go
get
ahead and
that
bury
cost
that
from,
line.
I think Northwestern probably is, I'm sure that's their line, so.
One of the questions I have, do you know who Tyler is that's working at MBAC?
No.
He's working with Right Now Technologies, economic club from Carroll College. I asked for an economic outlook analysis for this conversation, and this is what he put together. This is part of it. This is the other pieces. This is Montana population projections. You can see where Broadwater County's at. We are growing. We have been growing for a number of years. Sorry, Ann. One for you. And then here's the income projections, which I think is interesting. And I think it's worth having a discussion. Income-wise, Broadwater County is coming up. If you look at the median household income there, we're at 13th in the state. I think there's a lot of people who would have guessed we were down below based on the fact that so often Broadwater is mentioned as, you know, being very poor. We're very frugal. There's a big difference. Population, we're growing, number 1 on the list here. And then the projection, the blue line includes the big bill. those 5 years, and Val was talking about this at the county compensation board meeting, what happened with that, but you can see the dip. If you include those years with the big bill, that's the blue line to the right, and you can see what the projection is for Broadwater County. If you don't include those, because it was a changing and growing time, and you go to the year that's kind of the same as when the big bill started, that's the orange line. And that's the projections we're looking at. So what we're looking at is growth in Broadwater County. So when we look at doing anything like a building to address the overcrowding at the road yard and the overcrowding with weed had their truck hit 3 times, not this last winter, but the winter before. They want a new truck for mosquito, but they have no place to put it. They're not gonna get one until they have a place to put it. And the biggest complaint at Slice Summer 2 weeks ago was the mosquitoes. So you can see where that's going. We need to address some of these service issues for our citizens, but growth and lack of ability to keep up with that growth is hindering us from doing that. If we just address the needs of today by just doing something small, we're gonna be doing this exact same conversation in another year or 2. If we look at where this county is going and have some kind of an eye on where we project that we will be in the next 2, 5, 10, 20 years from now, we can save this county a lot of money by doing the smart thing, looking ahead and planning for some of this growth. Search and rescue right now is trading in 2 vehicles to get 1. In the future, they're gonna need another vehicle. They've got a boat, but they're gonna need more snowmobiles, 4-wheelers. As they grow, they're going to need more equipment. They're gonna have to be looking at not only their storage for that equipment today, but what they need 10 years from now. And the same goes with our training facility. We simply don't have one. So that's the other reason that we need to look at how do we provide that. We can't do it during school because those rooms are used by students. And that's the only training facility we have that we can borrow. So I just think these are a piece of the conversation and need to be taken into account as we talk about this.
I was gonna add too, just on the newer construction, if you are gonna do a training facility, it'd be really nice to set it up with electrical on the floor.
Mm.
So when you set desks or whatever, people can, if they're using, phones or even laptops or whatever, they're doing training that way, you can certainly set it up with, the whole works as far as electricity and Ethernet jacks and the whole works on the floor.
The training room would have, what would be the dimensions of it approximately?
Depending of what you need. But if you did, like, if you go to the back page where you've got 36 by 64, you're really looking at something that's probably about in the range of 12 to 15 feet by 30.
This center room?
Hey, Sean?
And realistically, you could even make it 24 wide by 30, just to start. And again, that way you could essentially add another set of offices on the side if you needed to do that.
You mind if I call up some of our department heads to come and look over your shoulder and our
Absolutely.
shoulders at the stuff? Virginia, Mike, Brian, Wynn, Scott, just wanna come up? If you don't want to, that's fine, we'll get you copies, but if you do wanna come up and take a look at some of this stuff, and then give your 2 cents or your 10 cents, whatever your sense is.
Or you can just flip through some of those.
Come on up, Brian.
Here's some of the projections that I think you guys should be aware of as you're looking at some of this stuff. The other thing, Sean, that I don't think I put in the spreadsheet for you is a need for extension. Virginia is in the hospital building. It's a
Right.
temporary situation. The heating is extremely expensive. This is something we would like to address as we're able to. And 4-H is a huge thing in Broadwater County. I forget how many kids, but I want to say it's like 40-some kids in 4-H. Is it? What? 102. Oh, I don't know where 40 came
That's a
from,
lot
but
of kids, yeah.
yeah. And it's only gonna grow. So how do we address those needs as well in this full package? So that we're being as smart as we can be, as frugal as we can be.
You know, the training center is key to a lot of that. It's really coming back through all the departments. That's a huge need.
And the training would also be used by EMTs, who are not here, but they're represented as well
Right.
in that need.
And there's floor plans and options all the way through
Hey, Julie,
that.
I'm sorry, you come up too.
No, I was just gonna say, I mean, it certainly would be something I can use as far as training facilities for
They do.
food
Yeah.
establishments
I
and,
forget that it's just
you know,
14.
food safety in general.
Is that
So,
a 12 wide?
because that I have to try to find, you know, location, certified installer training when I found that, so.
Thank you.
Pardon
Rather
me?
than a foundation.
Yes.
To 12.
Yeah.
So if you ever did need
Thank
to
you.
get rid of them or replace them, you
Looks
just
like
pull
it
in
says
a
a
new one.
14.
Well, it might be
I
smaller
guess
as a
it's
lease
right.
option.
I think it is 12 by 14.
There's all kinds of options.
There's also other options to look at as well. Some of our departments have the money to pay a portion of this. Weed and solid waste are two of them who have, you know, a budget that can do that and have brought that forward themselves. The other one is, there is a loan for local governments at 1%. That could fund a portion of it. So there's a lot of other options. Also, PILT could handle this in total, but I don't think that that's what we want to do, but we certainly could. We will be starting July 1st with 1.1 million.
I'd say, man, if you can get 1% interest, that's, save your cash for a rainy day.
Right, and we could pay that off early
Free
if
money.
we wanted, yeah. So there's a ton of different options, and we're well positioned.
Did we talk to you about kind of like a common lab space that we could all utilize?
No. But no, that would be wonderful.
What was that?
Common lab space.
Lab, I totally forgot about your need for a lab, both of you. Thank you. These guys need a lab facility.
We need like a little 3 dozen and a mosquito. All the equipment, we can put in all of the mosquito equipment.
How big is space?
Julie, do you want to come up and take Mike's chair?
I mean, is it something you can do for the 12 space? Or is it something that you just a regular type of office space you could convert to a lab or?
So you can put space and sink and, I mean, like for samples and stuff, and need refrigerator or refrigeration.
But it wouldn't have to be 12 feet wide.
Depends though, Julie, do like counter space, you know,
Like an L shaped.
Right, it's not on the, so I mean, by the time you put up, like I've got 2 different microscopes, utilize and then, I think if you just need space to lay things out, it would be so. It's probably gonna come up more room than what you think, but.
Yeah, we just do center bolt,
Yeah.
you know, rather than just open space.
Right, island in the center, and it's
I
not
think
so
it
like.
could run like Carrollton, just no mess, so everybody else.
I asked if they could jump in back.
And
By the time you get to
Sean,
back
we
there,
could use
basically.
the bathroom to feed out. There's a lab. So that's another thing that you don't need to plan for today. What does those girls look like in a decade? Because we don't want to be rebuilding a lab, because we rebuild it to accommodate where we're going as well as where we are.
So right now, how long I can go to the schools. The school's gotta be able to accommodate.
We hope it's in the winter and we're outside.
This is why Broadwater County employees sometimes are looking a little green.
Well, hazmat suits at the door.
Yeah, exactly.
So that might be something. something else to consider too, Sean, is, you know, a ventilation hood for using chemicals that do need, you know, you should have.
Yeah,
in
that
there.
could be easily added to.
School 3 or 4.
On this back, on the very back page, that's a 36 by 64. There's an area there. It's pretty good size. Is that?
That's why I was leaning more towards that 36. It gives you more options for space. And you can even expand on that if you needed to. I mean, that's the way you want to position that as be, you know, so you can just set additional beside it.
The only thing with the training room, and I guess that's the thing, is that if you confine too much, okay, if you have too small of an area, because you're trying, and this is just my thought, and Scott and I were talking about, the last training he had 25 people in. If you have, like with me, I have 22 search and rescue members, I have 3 liaisons from the sheriff's office, there's 25 people right there. If we're training, it's not we're sitting there watching a PowerPoint projection, we are doing hands-on. Simple thing is, for EMS is just doing CPR recertification. You're trying to do mannequins on the floor, you're trying to do loading people on a gurney or whatever. If you try to consolidate into a small area, one, people become uncomfortable, attention goes down, and you're wasting money, because no one's getting anything out of it. So really, having something more optimism, like a 30 by 30, where you have that ability to have some space, that would be more conforming to my needs as a public safety guy. And even hopefully I wouldn't be stepping across any lines with EMS as well. And Virginia's on the ambulance as well, so I think she could probably understand what I'm saying in that regards. I think you're in one building, trying to do all this in one building is going to be a very difficult task. You're talking about having labs and trying to do training in offices. I think trying to consolidate all that into one building is a point. And not to be disrespectful. I think there's just too many objectives to be met, because what the Chairman Ober said, we are growing. We have been growing. It's not going to stop. Everybody's needs, from mosquito to weed, sanitation, road department, everything else, those are going up. Public safety it's always on the rise, and we know that. You know, I just ran some numbers this morning to see where we projected it going. You know, we're 300 and some calls for service higher today than we were last year on the same day. We're 100 arrests higher this year on this day than we were last year on this day. Citations are up by, last year on this day we had 400 tickets, we're at 544 this year. So everything's getting busier and everything's being projected, and I think I can understand and relate to everybody's expectations, is that we have to look for tomorrow. Because, you know, when we built the jail, everybody said, oh, we have too many beds. And everything else like that. You know, we've grown as an office, now we've outgrown our building. We're very tight, there's not a lot of room, and lots of things we need we don't have, and we have nowhere to go with it. So, in that respect, when they designed the jail back in 2003 to then implement that building project in 2004, they thought about the needs of that moment, not 15 years from now. And it's the same concept that happens in almost every detention facility across the state and sheriff's office, is we're gonna meet the need for today and not tomorrow. And by the time the project's done, it's like buying a new computer. It's outdated by the time you get to it. So, in my mind, if we're gonna look at the training aspect and the training room and meeting everyone's needs, then I do like a bigger building. I like a bigger training center, because the thing is there's lots of things that can happen with that. Weed or mosquito, they can host a training, they can bring other people in from other jurisdictions to see how we do things here. Not that we're the greatest or we're best, but it's obviously a way to network and get more people here to see how things work and get better ideas. So if you have a small training area, no one's gonna wanna come, no one wants to be uncomfortable. If the restroom requirements are not met and people have to wait, that's gonna hinder that whole process as well. So there are lots of things, I understand trying to get the best bang for your buck, and try to do that, but I think it individually is you're gonna have to look at each department and say, okay, what is it that we're looking for and where do we plan on going? And where's tomorrow gonna be, not today? We have needs that I keep bringing to the commission on a seems like a weekly basis, and they're probably tired of hearing from me, but
I think that's, we spend a lot of time focusing on it. And so I think if this is if this is the line that needs to go down, then I think we really have to put a lot of thought into what needs to happen. So, I'll be quiet now.
Hey, Sean, to address Wynn's